Example, I have a client and I have their property listed in Altadena right now. We'll talk about listing outside of your area of expertise. And there are pricing strategies that work, and there's pricing strategies that don't. And at the end of the day though, I'm employed by the seller to guide them and advise them selling their property. So in this case, elderly client, lovely elderly client, they went through the fire. They lost everything. And they had to move, and they're very old. God, what am I saying? So they're in their 80s, okay, so they're old. And so they wanted to price their property at a price that I knew it wouldn't bring. And I said, Linda, it just won't bring that price. And she said, but the neighbor got that price for their lot. And I said, but the neighbor was on the view side of the street, you're on the view envy side of the street, which means everybody on your side doesn't have the view but wishes they did. We call that the view envy side. So that means it's worth less money. The other thing is that there's this dynamic that happens with properties that suddenly happen to come up on a market from a fire, for example. And I'm from Northern Cal. I went through the Camp Fire. I had over 300 clients lose homes up there. So anyhow, I said in the very beginning, people are so desperate to buy a lot that's burned that they overpay. And then the market will start to settle and we'll get to what's real pricing. Anyhow, she wanted to overprice it. And I said, I will do it because you want it done. But with the caveat that you understand we're not going to get this price. We're just not. And I wish to God we were, but we're not. And I know that to be true. So why don't we give it 60 days and we'll come back and revisit it. And so we just did, and we're reducing it. So that is not how I generally price. But the pricing strategy, it's very fun to do. And if you guys would all write one thing down, there's two things. It's two certifications I suggest you all get. One is called the PSA. It's the Pricing Strategy Advisor. What you will learn in that course is how to price a property for sale, how to analyze and evaluate what it should sell for, and how to maximize that price. Because when you're a listing agent, you will get listings based on how good you are. If you work a neighborhood and you're flipping houses, and I don't mean flipping, but I mean you're turning them over and selling them for top dollar in the shortest period of time, and the clients are going, oh my God, he was amazing. You will end up owning that farm area. You'll end up being who everybody comes to. So you want to be the best of the best. You want to understand how to do an absorption analysis, which an absorption analysis tells you how many properties are selling within what period of time. Because then you want to find out at what price point are they selling and what are the amenities that they have. So this is what I love about being the listing agent, is getting into it. So besides the Pricing Strategy Advisor, you want to get your, two others, SRS, which is the Seller Representative Specialist. That one will help you understand your relationship to your seller, how to manage them, how to serve them, and you also learn how to protect yourself legally with doing all your paperwork right. It won't go into the weeds on a listing, which we're going to do today, but that one's really good. And then in your careers in real estate, so 48 years, I have seen interest rates at 18%. I've seen them at 2.75%. And I've heard people whine and cry, oh my God, Chicken Little, sky is falling. There's no business. I'm like, there's always business. You just have to follow the economy. So where's the economy right now? It's with me, the old people. Because I don't want to climb stairs. If I had a 2-story right now, whew, I'd be selling that thing. I also don't need 5 bedrooms because the kids are gone and the grandkids don't live with me. So I don't need to clean. I don't need to pay my Social Security money to clean a house I don't need anymore. And this is the largest demographic and population in this country, are the old people like me. So you want your SRES. That is the Senior Representative, Senior SRES, Seller Representative Expert of Seniors. but it's SRES. And that will help you learn how to focus on seniors. So you can call your title company, whoever it is, and you can say, hey, can you pull me a list of all the people in my neighborhood or this farm area that have owned a home for 20 or 30 years? You could also get that list pulled for people that live out of state. Then you could send them a mailer and market to them. I live in your neighborhood. If you ever need help with selling your property, I am certified as a seniors real estate specialist. That's what it is, senior real estate specialist, SRES. So it'll help you learn how to market to the people, to bring business in, to generate business. Just like a dentist or a doctor, right? When they open their practice and an attorney, they have no business. So they all have to find a way to bring in business. So you have to know the economy, know your neighborhood. But looking at homes that are not owner occupied with out-of-state owners and people that have owned their home for 20 or 30 plus years, that's where the market's at right now. And I mean, because I've been in it so long, I work by referral only, and the calls I get every day are coming from people, mom just died. I do a lot of probate and trust work. And if you want another one, I would say it would be good to get your probate certification. And you can do that as well. And you'll learn how to handle a probate because it's legal. And you want to know how to do that. You want to know how to support the attorney. Why? Because attorneys are oftentimes the people who are hiring the real estate agent because the family doesn't know who, especially if it's an out-of-state family. They'll leave it to the probate attorney. So when I work with a probate attorney, man, I am Johnny on it. I'm like, okay, what do you need? What can I get for you? And I help them, and I check every document because their legal assistant might make a mistake. So that's just all a precursor to the listing agreement. And if you guys have any specific questions, please feel free to ask. Yes?
The certifications you mentioned, can we find them on the SAR website?
You can, yes. So if you go to, actually the place you want to go to is CAR, California Association of Realtors. And if you go to education, you'll find certifications and designations. And that would be the place to go, and you'll find those certifications. Now they do go on sale. Your certifications are good for 2 years and then you redo them. And you know, some people are like, I don't want to pay to redo it every 2 years. And I'm like, but you should, because guess what? Things change. Our forms change. Some of them change every 6 months. So you always want to make sure you're using your current forms in your zip forms, by the way. Don't do templates. And I'll tell you, I have brokerages that hire me to train their agents how to do the forms. And I'm really good at forms. And I always and one of them, she said, but I want you to train them how to do a template. And I said, I won't do that. And she said, but why? It makes it easier. I go, no, it doesn't. You know what happens? And I just saw this. The templates, when we have our new forms, it doesn't autofill. It doesn't auto replace. So I just had to review, and it's now going to be a legal issue, a contract that was done on a form that is no longer used. It's expired. And the lawsuit that's coming out of it is exactly why that form was updated. And the young man didn't know because he used his template, so he didn't even realize he was working with a form that's over 2 revisions old. And those revisions are all based on case law. So always make sure your form is the most current one. And that's why I don't believe in templates, because they haven't fixed that yet. So, okay, so you guys have all heard me say, everything that's contractual, whether it's a listing agreement, a purchase agreement, a buyer-broker representation agreement, always starts with your agency disclosure. That's according to the Civil Code of the state of California. It's legally required first. So don't do anything else. And the good news is that it actually helps the client understand your basic duties, your fiduciary, and your confidentiality. While I'm on that, I'll just say this for you to remember. Even after the close of escrow, you have a duty of confidentiality to your client. I'm gonna tell you guys stories about deals, but I'm never gonna mention names. Because it doesn't matter if I closed that transaction 30 years ago, the duty of confidentiality survives the close of escrow. So don't talk about your clients. They can sue you. If you do, you can harm them. And this is all legal. All of this is legal, you guys. It's a big deal. So thank you for being here. It says a lot about you and your commitment to being really good. I will tell you, I have never been sued, and no client of mine in 48 years has ever been sued. And I will tell you that that's because I am so, when it comes to paperwork and doing the right thing, I don't ever veer off. I don't color outside the lines. I sit on grievance, and I have been on pro standards, and I've been chair of grievance. It's not worth it. It's just not worth it. Even if you have to give up a few bucks. Have I made mistakes? I have. We all do. It's impossible not to. Own your mistake and fix it. And the worst one I made a mistake. It cost my client $10,000. I wrote my client a $10,000 check because it was the right thing to do. And I apologized, and I said, I made a mistake, and it's not right that it would cost you. And besides, he could have come after me for it. So I got in front of it and said, I will make this right. That client has sent me probably in excess of $42 million in business over the last 20 some odd years. And that's because he knows me to be honest and trustworthy. He knows that I didn't try to sneaky get away with something, that I told him I made a mistake before he found out. So, and then I made it right. So, but you always have to talk to your brokers. So your broker is the person that if you make a mistake, your broker will be pulled into it. And your broker is your person to go to for help. And they sometimes have legal help. But here's the other thing, you guys all have free legal help. Did you know that? You all know that? As much as you want. You can call CAR 13 times a day and talk to the attorneys. Don't ever hesitate. If you have a question and you don't have somebody to go to, call CAR's legal line. It's free. I call them all the time. I'm on first name basis with every attorney at CAR because I don't want to pay an attorney when I have a question. So I call them and I go, and I do it about the forms. I'll call and go, yeah, you know what, this language contradicts something else. It doesn't make sense to me. It seems like a legal issue. And they'll sit there and they'll go through it and they'll go, oh yeah, no, it's good. And they'll explain it, or they'll go, oh, we missed that. So the attorneys are fantastic at CAR. Yes?
Do you feel like they answer the phone?
They do.
Your call?
They
Because
get,
I called and
they do get busy. There's probably 10 of them, and they have over 200 and something thousand members. So at certain times, it seems like they get busy. I just keep ring. I just redial. I don't give up. I do other work while I'm waiting for them. But it's free legal. And I have an attorney that I use. He's $550 an hour, and he's really good, but he's still $550 an hour. So if I have to wait, I'll wait. But worst case scenario, if I really need, I'll call my attorney. Okay, so we've gotten through, so that's the agency. It's required on everything that's contractual. The listing agreement, date prepared. Date prepared is critical because on anything you do in this file, it's going to refer back to the date of this. If you try to amend the listing agreement, it'll ask you what agreement you're amending. You'll put that it's the listing agreement, and they'll ask that the date it was prepared. If you're, modification of terms, if you're extending something, everything will refer back to the date of the form, and that is the date prepared that you're always going to go to. Exclusive right to sell is your seller, and then your broker, that's clear, the address. Here's a little tip I've learned through the years. When I'm filling out a listing, I will open up CRS tax data, which is, you can get that right through your MLS, SDAR to the MLS. You'll get CRS tax data. Put in the property address, and it'll pull up who owns the property, what the address is, which, by the way, don't take a listing unless you've checked that. to make sure that the people that are gonna sign your listing agreement are the ones that are on the property's name. And you've probably heard about the fraud. I only got one call. It was usually for property that's owned by out-of-state owners. The one I got a call wasn't a house, it was vacant land. And they said, we own this piece of property and we'd like to sell it. And I said, okay, let me take a look at it and call you back. So I did. It was vacant. Should have been about $350,000 value. And I called him back and I said, it's worth about $350,000. And do you want to put it on the market? And how do you feel about pricing terms? And they said, well, we really want to sell it and get cash as quick as possible. We have an emergency, a family emergency, so we're willing to take $150,000. But we want cash and we want to close it in 10 days. I'm thinking,
You gotta know that's a problem right there.
okay, so you want to give away $150,000+? Yeah, I have really wealthy clients. They don't give away $5,000, let alone $150,000. And so I said, okay, well, I've noticed your numbers from out of state. So if you would be so kind and you can text me pictures of your driver's licenses so I can match them to the property's title report. Click. Okay, there you go. But it's rampant. So if you get anybody from out of state or anywhere that wants to sell a property, always check the CRS tax data. That's the quick and easy way to see who owns that property. And so what I do is I open that tab and then I copy paste, because I've seen more than too many contracts with the wrong APN number. So if you don't know, if you have the wrong assessor's parcel number on a contract, you now have a defective contract. So you don't want a defective contract, because what it tells somebody is you're not paying attention. And if you're not paying attention to the writing of a legally binding contract, then how would the other person know that you're competent in anything else? It starts to think, oh, well, if they didn't pay attention to that, which is so important, what else might they not pay attention to? So be very detail-oriented in your contracts, because we're lucky that we can still do these and they don't have attorneys doing them. So so that's how I make sure I don't make a mistake. And by the way, I have made a mistake once, I don't know, 20-something years ago. And it was embarrassing when they said, you have the wrong APN. And don't ever use a former contract. Always start from scratch. I've also seen that happen, and that ended up being a multi-$1,000 mistake. Somebody used the wrong contract. They thought, oh, it's okay, I'll just auto-fill it in. They missed something, and it obligated a seller to give a credit that they never agreed to. But nobody read it, and everybody signed it. And at the end of the day, the seller had to give a credit that they never agreed to, because their agent never read the contract and saw that it said in there was a seller for the credit, a credit for the seller to give. And the buyer's agent, it was a mistake because she used another form and she wasn't paying attention and she didn't take that part out. And it became a legal mess. But the agents ended up being liable, both of them, because they didn't read it and they didn't catch it. So, okay, listing periods, is you probably know now, on residential can only be 24 months. Cannot be longer than 24 months. You can extend it, and 24 months is a long time. I gotta tell you, as a business person, I don't know that I would take one for 24 months, because I could go sell 24 in 24 months. So if you've got a listing for 24 months, it means that it's gonna be grossly overpriced, or it is a one-off that's gonna be very difficult to sell. And you have to think about how much time are you gonna put into that. I have taken a few that are really long because I really liked the sellers and I wanted to help them, or I really liked the property and I was willing to spend the time it was gonna take. Because you don't get paid more for taking longer to sell something and for working harder. So you have to, if you do it for the right reason, that your heart's in it and you really want to. Yeah.
Why would you take a listing for 24 months? What kind of a listing would be 24 months? Normally they want to sell the house.
Okay, so could be somebody that's selling a family member's house and they want 5 million and the house is worth 2 million.
So you're making the choice of 24 months kind of thing. They don't say we're not.
Yeah, nobody says, I want to list for 24 months. But when they come in and it's a $2 million house and they're like, we want 5 million and we don't need to sell it. Okay, well, they're not really motivated. So personally, I don't work with people who aren't motivated. I'm not in this business to kick tires. When I work and I produce.
But this has a date from too, so you'd actually.
You have to have so you have to have a beginning and an end date, or it's legally not a binding contract.
I can imagine doing 24 months.
Yeah, I've only
Otherwise,
done one, and it was for a trophy property in Northern California, and it was a one-off in so many different ways, and it had a lot of different issues. And by the way, I did actually negotiate a very different sort of compensation as a result of what it was going to take. But we had to bring attorneys in to do that.
When you fill this form out, you're gonna do the 24 months on the beginning on and the ending.
Yeah.
So you already know that it's gonna take 2 years to sell.
But I wouldn't recommend it, because if
Okay.
it's just on a normal house,
Okay.
and there's ever an issue and a family member says, that agent signed that my parents up for a 24-month listing or something, I honestly, everybody does different. 6 months is very typical.
Yeah.
I signed mine up for 3 months.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I'd rather extend it, but I don't wanna waste my
Yeah,
time.
extending is fine. You can do that forever, I guess.
Yeah, you can continue to
Okay,
extend.
okay.
So it's up to you and your broker. Again, always talk to your brokers. But I personally, I do mine for 3 months, and I just tell them, your house will be sold. That's my job, is to get it sold, not to sit around on it forever. Listing price, that's where the pricing strategy advisor is gonna be very, very, very valuable. I do a variety of analysis for my clients ad nauseum for them. I'm doing one right now. So I did an absorption analysis over the weekend. I did a with repair value analysis. I got them to send me a list of the current condition of the house, all the systems, because that affects the price, right? So if they tell me, well, my neighbor's house just sold for 800,000, but that house was all fixed up with new electrical, new plumbing, there's the sewer lines clear, the roof is good, the windows are good, but then they've got their house and it needs all those things. Well, I can tell you windows are probably 50, the electrical's gonna be 10, the plumbing's gonna be 10, so 50, 60, 70, the roof will be 40. So it's probably about $150,000 off, just right off the top of my head. Well, they're not gonna get the same price. So I need to help them understand there's a before repair value and there's an after repair value. That's how flippers look at it, by the way. So when I'm evaluating that, I'll look at the comps and I'll look and I read in the details what it says. And I check, the bedrooms, the bathrooms, the square footage of the lot. But if a lot says it's an acre, is it really an acre if most of it's like this? No, it's not. It's not usable. Not the same if it's an acre like this. Completely different value in a lot, right? So, and if the house was built 50 years ago and nothing's been done to it, a lot of things have changed in 50 years. And they're gonna get called out in an inspection report. So, those are some of the things I do to help set a sales price. There's different strategies. Once upon a time, more than 15 years ago, we always priced high. Now, that works because the sellers will always go along with it. But you're setting yourself up for problems because you're gonna disappoint them. Because people aren't stupid. And a lot of agents aren't stupid. So they'll know what the value is. Besides, it has to appraise unless it's a cash deal. Appraisers are there. I mean, they'll assign a $30,000 value or loss to a property based on how busy the street is. So if it's a really busy street, that value comes down 30,000 from the houses on the backside that aren't on a busy street. Every bedroom has a value. Every bathroom has a value. So, it has to appraise. So it doesn't make sense to overprice. And what happens is, there's a lot of analogies. It'll sit on the market like a can of tuna fish. And you know, 3 days, you leave a can of tuna fish on your counter for 3 days, it stinks. Well, so does the house that's been sitting on the market. And then the buyers are like, oh, you know, honey, I like that house, but nothing's happening. There must be something wrong with it. Nobody wants something that looks like or feels like there must be something wrong with it. So, here's the other thing. When you overprice, which way are you gonna go in negotiating for your seller? You're gonna go down. Why do you wanna go down? Is that what they do in auctions? Where they sell art for 200 million for one picture? 200 million for a picture? How do they do that? Oh, that's right, they come up. Because there's called human behavioral economics, psychology. And you get people competing for something, they lose their minds sometimes, which is what we want as sellers agents. I love to get a fever going for a house. So I will typically come in 5% under what is the market value. And then I manage my showings, because think about going to a restaurant. Are you excited to go to a restaurant where there's nobody in it? Not really. But if it's packed, it must be good. So I will try to control the showings on a house so that they're at an open house. And so everybody's coming at the same time. Yes?
When you undervalue a home, though, a lot of sellers would rather go to another agent who will give them the price that they want.
So she said when you undervalue a home, a lot of sellers will prefer to go to an agent that will give them a price they think they want. Yes, but this is where you have to educate them about the danger of overpricing, and that just because an agent agrees and says, yes, your house is worth $1 million, it has to appraise. And if it doesn't appraise, the sale will fall through. Now you're gonna go back on the market with a canceled sale. Okay, we're back to the tuna fish. It looks bad, it smells bad. It's been on the market, came off the market, now it went back on the market. Everybody knows there's a problem, because houses don't fall out of escrow if everything's good. They fall out of escrow because there's a problem. It doesn't appraise, or something wasn't disclosed that's been found in the inspections. That's why things fall apart. So it's about helping them understand the value. And by the way, they don't have to sell. Now, when they sign a listing agreement, if they list it for $800 and you bring them an $800,000 offer and they choose not to sell, do they still have to pay you? Does anybody know the answer? You're right. Yes, they do. Why? Because this is your employment contract, and the sales price is $800,000, and you brought them an $800,000 offer. You did your job. They owe your brokerage the commission on that $800,000. Okay?
Yeah, makes sense.
Now, they don't have to sell. Now you can talk to your broker about, about how you would want to handle that. Everybody's different, but you have to get your broker's permission. When I use my strategy and my broker approves of it, I always tell them, if you don't want to sell, I won't ask you to pay me. And we put this in the contract so they know they're not obligated to pay me if they choose, or if they get the offer full price at the price I put it at, but they don't want to take it. I mean, I'm willing to stick my money where my mouth is, because I'm telling them, I've never had the property not sell for a higher price. Never, ever. So I learned this probably, 15 years ago, to bring it in under the market, just like an auction house does. If you can get one offer and then other people are talking, never lie about having an offer if you don't, by the way. That is a violation of the code of ethics. If you get caught, it's easy to get you caught too. So if you are a seller's agent, I'm a buyer's agent, and I call you and I say, what's your name?
Esther.
Esther. And I say, Esther, I have a buyer that's interested in your property. And you say, well, Karen, I already have an offer on the table and it's at $825. So you'll have to write an offer for $850 because it's a good $825. So you'll have to write an offer at $850. And I can say, okay, now what I'm gonna do in my contract when I write it to you is I'm gonna stipulate that you have to provide a redacted copy of that offer, proving that you actually had that offer. And if you don't, again, it's a violation of the code of ethics, it's unethical, it's probably illegal, and your broker's not gonna be happy about it. So I know a lot of agents 15, 20 years ago that did that all the time, they lied. They just didn't get caught back in those days. Nowadays, people know better. So if anybody ever tells you, I have an offer, I always say, that's awesome, and we will submit the higher offer, but please know that we're going to ask for the redacted offer that you just mentioned. So they have to show you the offer, but they take out the names of the buyers.
Where do we find the form for, oh, sorry, go ahead, you had your hand up.
You put it in the counter?
I actually, when I write an offer, so if I called Esther and she said that she had that, I would put it under terms right in the purchase agreement.
Okay.
But
Are there, two things, are there forms for the redaction?
no, you just black it out. Just like you redact anything out. You just black out the buyer's names and send the contract over so that the buyer's agent can see that it was a real offer.
Okay,
But nobody needs to see the names of the buyers. That's nobody's business.
and is there something in these forms, and I really have been trying to read them ad nauseam. Is there anything that tells the seller that you owe the commission even if you get an offer at the price we're asking?
Well, that's all about what's negotiated on the purchase agreement.
Where did we put that?
Okay, so this is a listing agreement.
Oh,
There
sorry.
is nothing. So
Like I don't know the difference.
it did change, and it should have changed, and it's great, and it's good that you guys are newer, because the old way was the wrong way, and it was always the wrong way. And buyer broker representation was pushed through in 1996. I was with a brokerage back in 1996 that if you did not have a buyer broker contract, you did not get paid. So I've never not worked with a buyer broker contract, and it's fair. If I'm representing you as a buyer, you should be determining how much I'm gonna be paid, regardless of who pays me, because I'm serving you. You might not wanna hire me. It's a job, we're applying for a job. So, so I am so happy with how we're working now, and it's working out so beautifully. Okay, so that's listing price. Property-specific listings. So this is where if it's a manufactured home or a probate, you're gonna check that box. And that's because there are other forms that have to be used if it is with a manufactured home or it's a probate. And those forms, this is the nice thing, will automatically be attached to your file in zip forms. It triggers an attachment. So that's really helpful. Next is the compensation. And again, you know, this is something you speak to your brokers before you go off and do something to make sure that they're in line with what you want to offer. And every brokerage is different. They have their own policies on that. So that's where you would put it. If you want to charge anything besides the compensation for like a fee, make sure you go to the California Department of Real Estate and look up the law regarding what you can and cannot charge. So you cannot charge for your time. So here's something I do. You can't charge for your time spent on a listing. Let's say you price it and it doesn't get sold. It's going to expire. They don't want to relist with you, but you've invested time in marketing and, you know, showing the house and open houses. And I had this happen probably 5 or 6 months ago. I spent 29 hours in open houses. It was overpriced. He wouldn't listen. He finally did listen. And, but then he wanted to go work with another agent who tried to she did. She interfered with my exclusive representation, told him she would take the listing at a much lower price. So I dealt with her. I called her up and I just said, I will file a grievance complaint against you for interfering in my exclusive representation. And she went away. And so he came to me and he's like, oh, she won't work with me now. And I said, yeah, this is because she can't work with you now. And I said, but here's the other thing. We have to extend our listing. And I'm now going to extend it with new terms, or I'm not going to work for you either. You can go have her then. And he was just like, wait, I don't understand. Do you want my listing or don't you? And I said, I do, but I just saw you do something that was underhanded, so now I don't trust you. So now I'm going to put a clause in here that if you cancel on me this listing, if you want to cancel, I will let you. Nobody wants a hostage for a client, not a good thing, but you're going to pay me back all my marketing expenses. Now that's one thing you can charge for, your marketing, but you have to have your receipts. So like my signage, my photos, you can put in the listing agreement that you, upon cancellation, if it's prior to, or if they won't sign an extension, that they have to reimburse you for your marketing expenses. So I do that. It also kind of makes them think twice if they think about going with somebody else. And there's nothing wrong with that. You come out of pocket up front in good faith that you're gonna get the property sold, which if it's overpriced, that's always risky business. I don't like risky business.
Karen,
Yes.
You said that if he doesn't go, if the seller doesn't go with you after you've extended the contract.
If they wanna cancel with me prior to the expiration of my
Okay.
listing agreement,
Okay.
I have a clause in there. So what I now do is I just put it in there right in the beginning. That should this listing agreement expire and the client choose to not work with me and relist with me, that they will owe me compensation, reimbursement for the listing expenses supplied with receipts to them.
If it's expired.
If they don't wanna relist with me. If they don't wanna if they're gonna sell, they're gonna relist, right?
Yes.
Okay, if they're not gonna relist with me, I want my marketing money back. Because I'm the one that came out of pocket,
And where do you put that?
under other terms. So we'll get there,
Okay.
we'll get there. But you can ask for your marketing, but you can't ask for your time, or your gas, or your expertise, or anything else that you've given them. But you can't. And you can talk to your broker about it, but it serves me well, because people will just tend to stay with you, because they don't wanna pay you. Okay, so then we have additional, and that's where you would put additional. So C, you can have a C attached broker created compensation schedule, and that's under 2C2. And that goes back to paragraph 4C, which talks about compensation terms. Here's another thing. If your seller, I had a seller do this maybe 9 or 10 years ago, it was a multi-million-dollar house, and they said, oh, we wanna take our house off the market. And in the middle of a listing. They're interfering with our contract. Our contract doesn't have a take your house off the market. And so I learned the hard way though, because I trusted them. And I said, okay. And I didn't extend the listing. So the listing period ran out and expired, and the house was off the market. They listed it with someone else that they paid less money, and I didn't get paid. Now, I recently, this past year, had somebody that wanted to take their house off the market. I learned my lesson. I'm like, okay, no problem. We're gonna extend it. How long do you want it off the market? 2 months, great. We're gonna extend the listing 2 months.
So you keep the contract.
You guys are business people. So you have to be ethical, you have to be honest, and you have to be a good business person for your business.
So you put it on withdrawn and then extended the listing in the MLS?
I'm sorry, could you
So
speak up?
you put it on withdrawn,
So I withdrew it as they wanted, and
extended?
and then I extended it at the same time, so the listing period was for another 2 months. Because I have 6 months to get it sold and get paid. And I need that period of time, just in case the market changes. Interest rates, if they shoot up, it's gonna affect my ability to get that home sold without compensating with a price improvement.
So your initial contract was for 6 months.
Correct.
4 months into it, they said, never mind, we're taking it off the market.
They wanted to take it off.
Right.
They wanted to take a breather. And I go, okay, that's fair, but we're gonna extend the listing for 2 more months.
But
You already have 6 months.
But we're taking it off for 2. So I really don't have 6 now, do I? I have 4. And I wouldn't have taken it at the price it was at
Okay.
with a lesser time. I like 3 months because I know I've got them priced right. So my 3-month listings are because I have priced them. And when I price properties, I always get more than what that list price is. So you have a list price, you have an offer price, and you have a sold price.
Right.
They're not the same. There's a lot of negotiating, which is where the fun is. I love negotiating. For my sellers, I like to see how high I can get that price. I love to tickle them to death. My best one yet was 2020. I sold a home to a client for $1.2 million. 11 months later, I sold it for $2.125. 11 months, they made over $900,000. Another one, I sold their home for $200,000 over market value. But it's all strategy, and it's fun. It's really fun.
What happens if that knucklehead decides not to sign that 2 months extra extension? Can he do that?
No. Well, he doesn't have to sign it, but he's now just interfered with our listing agreement.
Right,
So he can do that, and you know what's gonna happen? He has to pay me,
yeah, okay, I see that.
because he just interfered with the contract he
Okay,
signed.
great.
So people have to understand, this is a contract. It's not loosey-goosey. This is actionable in a court of law. You can mediate, and you guys do mediate, so we all sign that we will mediate, arbitrate. Yeah, and he'll lose all day, because this is black and white.
Okay, great, thanks.
So that's the beauty of these. Okay, so then we get to the continuation of right for compensation for prospective buyers. So let's say so I have all these built-in time clocks that my TC builds in for me. So if I have a 3-month listing, the week before it's going to expire, if for some reason something's happened in the market and the interest rates have gone up and the property hasn't sold, the week before we're going to send to extend the listing for the client to sign. But here, right here under this 3C3, I have 160 days to cover me in case they don't want to sign with me again. They don't want to relist with me. And let's say, what was your name?
Adele.
Adele. So let's say you're the buyer and I showed you the property, Adele, on 123 Main Street. And my listing's expired. And you come back after my listing's expired, someone else has the listing.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I introduced you through my hard work, my efforts, my marketing, my time. I should be compensated.
Right.
So that period of time covers me. If you come back and you're buying that property, then I'm the one who gets paid, not the current listing agent. And I know this happened on a $7 million house on the beach in Encinitas 6 or 7 years ago. What was a real bummer is that the listing agent did not do this form, and you have to, it's called a notice of broker involved buyer, prospective buyers, notice of prospective buyers. So when she lost the listing, she did not provide a list of all the buyers to the seller at the time of the expiration. You have to do it prior to expiration or within 5 days of a listing being canceled. She didn't do that. Another gentleman got the listing. The buyer that she showed came to me. I wrote an offer. She found out that the buyer she showed was buying it through me, and I was getting paid on $7 million. And let me tell you, she had a fit. And she's like, that's my buyer. And I said, well, apparently not, because they're not working with you. And they don't have to work with you. But the fact is, did you put in the paperwork to the seller to cover you? And she's like, no. And I said, you're out of luck. I'm not giving you my commission, because it's mine. But you would have gotten it if you had filed that paperwork, no matter what I say. You would have gotten paid. So
That's C3.
yeah, so you want to, I like 6 months period of time, okay? Because that's exactly how long, it's fair, it's reasonable. And if anybody's going to go around you and buy, they're not going to wait longer than 6 months. And longer than that's just kind of unreasonable. But the point is that it covers me for being compensated as long as I submit that form of the buyers that I showed the property to. So, and always email you guys if I haven't yet said this today. Don't do anything by conversation. Don't talk. Talk is not actionable. You can't hold anything to anybody to anything. When somebody goes, well, I heard. Okay, well, it's not worth the paper it's written on, because it wasn't written on paper. So text or email. If you have a form, make sure it goes in an email so that you have a copy of it. In case, in that case, that was a $210,000 commission. $210,000 she lost because she didn't provide the form at the time she should have provided the form.
So I have a question.
Yes.
So for the prospective buyers, how do you identify prospective buyer? Is it the buyer already offer or?
Okay, so no. So when I have a listing, if you come through, I want to know the names of the buyers. I don't need the name of the agent. I need the names of the buyers.
Like the buyer agent want to show that house to that client?
I like to know who they are, and I ask them for that, and I explain why, and all agents understand this. And I'm
Oh, so
like,
you
look,
need to
you're a
ask
listing
the
agent, you
client then.
understand that in case for some reason my buyer goes off the rails in ways I can't predict, and they come back with another agent, you know, within a period of time, that's my buyer. I need to submit these names, you know, to the, you know, as the listing agent. So I have never had a buyer's agent say, no, they won't give me the names.
Before they showing the
Right,
client?
now, when you have an open house, I have a thing out there, and I have a thing that's the seller has asked to know who's been in the house for insurance purposes. Because you'll see Mickey Mouse, I mean, if you ask people to give you their names, sometimes at an open house, they'll give you a fake name. So what I do is at the top of the sheet where I ask them to sign in, I just say the seller has asked for the names of people visiting the home for insurance purposes. And for what it's worth, I hope this never happens to any of you, but through my career, I've had thefts at open houses, big thefts of small, very valuable things. And boy, you really want to know who's been in the house, because the police get involved and they want to know who's been in the house. So it's not actually a made-up thing about having it for insurance purposes. It can help the seller tremendously. Okay, so, and then sometimes, depends on if it's a really big house. I don't know, if you guys list really big homes, I will advise you, get someone to help you with an open house. Bring someone else in as a favor. Just go, hey, I'll do this for you, you do this for me, or whatever the case is, and get them to write down names. It sounds like a pain in the butt, but boy, it can make and break the difference on things.
I went into a house when I was having someone do an open house for them, and the person had a candle in the bedroom. Holy mackerel, if somebody had gone and wanted to be vindictive, they could have burnt the house.
So when you're listing houses, by the way,
Okay.
do walkthroughs, check, because trust me, buyers are nosy and have no manners, and they will walk through, they will open drawers, they will open cabinets, and you could be hit by a group, and they'll come through, especially on a bigger home, and they'll separate, and they'll go through, and they'll be looking for drugs, jewelry, and money, anything they can grab and tuck into their coats. So I walk through, if there's any drugs, any jewelry, anything of value, I ask for it to be removed from the premises. Here's another thing, no one thinks about this one. If you have a listing on a vacant home, before you do anything, ask them if they have an insurance policy for a vacant home. So if you have a home and it's not lived in for 30 days, it's considered vacant. And their homeowner's policy, unless that's a vacant home policy, is not enforceable. They have no insurance. So if somebody falls down and gets hurt, there's no policy. So ask that question. I had an attorney, a title company attorney, hired me to sell a property for him. It'd been vacant for 4 years. And I said, okay. I said, hey, can you let me know who the insurance company is for the vacant policy? And he goes, we don't have an insurance policy. And I go, you don't have an insurance policy on that house? Are you kidding me? And I said, you have it paid off. So you have a multi-million-dollar asset with no insurance. So what if it's vandalized? That would be the best case. Worst case is it burns down. You just lost all that money. And I said, but I'm not gonna do anything. I'm not even listing it until you get a policy. Because what if I get hurt on it? Or wait, what if I have an inspector come out and they get hurt? Or I have an open house and somebody gets hurt? I'm gonna be responsible because I didn't ask you this very simple question. So, by the way, you will pay more for a vacant policy. They're not cheap. And the insurance companies don't like them, especially on a house for sale, because a vacant home is more likely to be vandalized. And the insurance company knows that. And if they have to pay the claim, they also know that you're gonna sell it, and they're probably not gonna collect enough in premiums to cover what they have to pay in a settlement. Yes?
So you said, sorry, going back to the open house,
Mhm.
that, we're asking them to sign in because the owner asked for insurance purposes.
Yep.
How can we elaborate more on that, like if they ask?
Well, if somebody falls,
Okay.
if they fall while they're in the house, I wanna know that it was them that was in the house. If they slipped down the stairs, I can't tell you how many slip and falls I've seen at open houses on stairs. Way too many. Especially if you ask them to take their shoes off and it's tile stairs and they hit the edge of the stair. I've had to call an ambulance once or twice in my career for somebody who cracked their head open on the tile stairs. Well, it's tile, right? And your foot goes out from under you, you go back, your head hits the edge of a stair. So, yeah, or I had a broken elbow. And it was wood stairs. But when she fell, she put her elbow down and it broke her elbow. It was horrible.
Who's paying for that?
Insurance, that's why there has to be insurance. The seller's vacant home insurance policy. And if you don't ask that and something happens, they could say, I hired a real estate agent. Shouldn't they know that? You know, we get paid a lot of money for what we do. And we should be providing services equivalent to what we're charging. We're not serving hamburgers. We're serving, this is legal. And we get paid handsomely. So the more we know and the more we can protect our clients, it's the reason they pay us what they pay us. So if I have a client say, well, I'm paying you a lot of money. And I'm like, well, I think I might be saving you a lot more than what you're paying me, to be very honest. And here, let me give you some examples. So like this vacant home policy, I guarantee if you guys ask anybody, nobody will know. They'll go, what? What? I never heard of that. It's like, well, okay, you've been lucky, but I don't want to be the person who's not lucky.
Usually it comes up when they're renting it, and then they decide to sell it.
Or they move out of it.
30
It's a
days.
second home. Or mom dies. I have a new probate. Mom passed and the house has been vacant. There's no policy on it, 7 siblings. And I said, and it's the first thing I asked. I said, how long's the home been vacant? And she said, well, mom died several months back. And I went, did you guys talk to the insurance company to change the homeowner's policy? She goes, no. I go, you need to, because the home has no policy on it right now. So you need to call and inform them that it's vacant and change that policy right now before you let anybody near that property. She's like, I never heard of that. And I'm like, well, nobody talks about it. But I can tell you, being in real estate, we sell vacant homes. And and I only found out about it because of an accident that happened. And another agent shared it with me. And I was like, I didn't know. I had no idea. So now I tell everybody. And you had a question for me. What was your question?
I had an open house once, and I didn't see the guy fall. He was leading out the door, and I was talking to someone else that was in the house, and someone yelled and told me he had fallen. So I assisted him with ice packs and what have you, and his wife got the car, and she tried to get him to go to the doctors, but he said no. Well, he refused to sign in. My point is, when he came in, he refused to sign in. He said he didn't want to sign in, and I said, well, it's a requirement, and it allows the homeowner to know who has been in her home. And so he said, well, that's okay, I don't want to look then. And he went to walk out, and so I put my attention on someone else, and then he fell.
Mm-hmm.
So in that case, but I
Well,
reported it to,
And he was there,
Listing
and he fell in
agent.
front of you,
no, he fell on the outside of the
Oh.
door, I was inside.
but you didn't see him
I
fall.
didn't see him fall, it was just that when
Yeah.
someone yelled, I turned
Yeah,
and I saw
and you
him
saw him,
on the
yeah.
ground.
I mean, you can't force people to. I do everything I can, but if they're serious buyers, I've never had anybody not to. It's usually the looky-loos, the neighbors that don't want to give their name. It's like, and then if they don't, like, I'll check it and I'll go, oh, Mickey Mouse. I haven't seen Mickey in a while. And then I'll go, that must mean you're a neighbor. And I try to do it laughingly and jokingly, so I'm not insulting anybody. And they'll go, oh yeah. And I'm like, okay, fair is fair. It's, we just need to know who's in the house, and it's to protect me and protect the seller. And then they'll go, okay, and then they'll write their name.
So I reported it to the listing agent, when I gave her the information of what
Mhm.
took place. at the open house. Was there anything else I was supposed to do?
Mm-mm. So are you, just out of curiosity, were you with the same brokerage as the listing agent?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's good. Because if you're not with the same brokerage, you are not representing that seller. The listing agent is and the listing brokerage is. So that's a whole nother topic of when you have somebody from a different brokerage hold your house open. Because that person was not hired by the seller. You were hired by the seller. Your brokerage was hired by the seller. So that can be a whole different topic. Okay, so seller obligation to pay previous brokers. Okay, if they have had the house listed before, don't even bother with this until you know what the disposition was. Did it expire? Did they cancel it? Is there a continuation to pay that previous listing agent? And if so, where's the list of names? Because Adele, if you looked at the house and I take the listing and I didn't know and I didn't ask for it and you come back through and I'm working you, I'm getting you all the information and everything and I'm gonna write the offer, what I don't know is that you actually are covered under another listing agent and they're gonna get paid, not me. So I don't take a listing if there's been a previous listing without asking, is there a continuation? Can I see the contract? And can I see the paperwork for the excluded buyers? So I know that the other listing agent's gonna get paid. What's your name, sir?
Robert.
Robert. If Robert comes in, now I know I'm not gonna get paid for Robert. Now,
Is
it
there
doesn't
any
mean I'm not
firm
gonna,
in Belleville that has this? Because
Yes,
you can
it's
lie
called
to
a
me as
notice.
seller.
there is, so there's two different ones, whether you're a seller's agent or a buyer's agent. In this case, it's notice of prospective buyers. And I won't tell you the other one so it doesn't confuse you.
Doesn't the MLS say who's responsible for the home?
No. And by the way, I'm on the board of the MLS, so no,
So
it
you
doesn't.
know.
Yeah, no, it doesn't,
Darn.
No. Okay, items included. You can lose a transaction over this issue. And I've had it happen. People get weird. So they'll walk in and they'll go, oh my God, I have to have that light fixture. I promise you, the seller's gonna go, oh no, it's a family heirloom and we're not letting go of it. And you're like, okay, like it's at Home Depot for $200, no big deal. And they're like, no, it just becomes a possession issue. And I see it with men more than with women. And they're like, no, I'm not selling it to the buyer and giving them that. And I'm like, it's $200. So I have come out of pocket in the past because I'm not gonna lose a commission check and a sale for a $200 item. So what I do with my clients, my sellers, is I walk through and I make a list and I'm like, so what do you not want to go with the house? And I will list that all here. That's the most critical list, is what you do not want to leave, what you're taking with you. And I actually suggest very strongly, especially light fixtures, anything that's ornamental that could be, especially if it's of value. So I sold a house for somebody with a lot of money, and the list was really, really, really long. And he's like, is this necessary? And I said, if you don't think people are gonna come through and say, I'm not buying this house unless I get that painting, you're crazy. That's a $3 million painting. They're gonna want that painting. And your house is a $5 million house. That's ridiculous. So yeah, just take the painting off the wall, please. And he's like, I don't have any place to put it. I'm like, I don't care where you put it. Anywhere, just get it out of here. And by the way, if you take a listing at a house with artwork like that, make sure that there's a policy to cover open houses and your listing period, that you're covered. Because if somebody steals it on your watch, you don't want to be implicated in any way. So I actually, on that gentleman, I had him put me on a rider on his policy for the period I had it listed, just to protect. Now, some people might say it's going overboard. I don't know. I don't want to find out.
Right.
I don't, the worst case will be somebody steals the painting and the insurance is there. So,
That's smart.
and I don't have to worry. I don't like to worry.
We didn't check the box for refrigerator, washer, dryer. Do we need to check that?
Yeah,
box?
you would. That was my bad.
No worries.
But you can also leave things negotiable. So remember, every single thing in here and your purchase agreements is negotiable. So I always tell sellers, think about this. How old is that refrigerator? Do you really wanna pay to ship it? I mean, if it's only worth $500 and you're gonna pay $100 to ship it, really? Is it worth it, or do you really need a new one? But we could also use it as a bargaining chip, you know? Because washers, dryers, and refrigerators new are not cheap. So depending upon the buyers, we might say, well, if you pay an extra $5,000 for the house, and bear with me now, if you pay an extra $5,000 for the house, we'll give you the refrigerator, washer, dryer. Now you could turn around on the other side and go, well, wait, I could buy a refrigerator for $1,500 and a washer dryer for $1,500, and that's only $3,000. So why am I paying $5,000? Well, because you're putting it on your mortgage and you're not paying $5,000. You're paying a minimal amount out of, you know, if it's at a 6% interest rate, $5,000, you're talking $3 a month, and you're gonna write off a part of it, of the interest, 30% of the interest on your income. So really it's chump change. So yeah, it's $5,000. Or you could just go buy your new ones. And they don't wanna give up $3,000 cash. And when they realize, oh yeah, I'm paying $5,000 more, but it's in the mortgage. I'm not coming out of pocket $5,000. Just one second. She was next. I'm sorry.
So do you always have like an open house policy, like for the insurance, or only when there's like expensive items?
Only when there's things that are very valuable.
Okay.
And it's not very common. It's really quite uncommon. I think I've had it maybe 6 times in my career where the house had items that were that, I mean, there was a house with vases that were $30,000. You know, what are the chances that someone's gonna knock over a vase? Or Baccarat statues. You could put them in your pocket. I was like, are you crazy? This house was full of cha-cha stuff, but ridiculously expensive cha-cha stuff. And I'm like, someone's gonna take it. Someone's gonna take it. I just know it. Just please do it for me. Either put it away, move it all out, pack it up, or put me on a policy. But you're making me a nervous wreck.
The other problem too is that you have to be careful. People's artwork sometimes is not your taste. You went through a house where it was rather pornographic artwork.
Oh.
And there was a tenant that was living there.
Okay,
The
so-
owner put those away.
Yeah, so
They didn't know where to look.
when I take listings, I suggest that all family photos be removed. Anything that could be offensive, be removed. This isn't a personality contest. We're not judging anybody, and we don't need that issue. And it could cause problems. So I always go through that. Yeah, I always go through the house.
For luxury
Yes,
houses,
Esther.
they have like those expensive built-in refrigerator.
Mhm.
They normally bring the refrigerator with them?
No, they don't on those. Those are built in, the Sub-Zeros.
Right.
Those are, yeah, so those you don't
So
have an issue.
Automatic that they leave it.
Those are built in actually.
Okay.
So yeah, those are not quite the same thing. So refrigerators generally do not stay, neither do washer and dryers. Your microwaves, your dishwashers, as long as the microwave's built in, your dishwashers and your stoves, those typically stay, but they don't have to. It's negotiable. Here's another thing. I sold a house, and in the listing agreement, I mentioned that it had a professional dog kennel with 17 kennels, and that there was that it had a shop in it, that it was so big that it had a car lift in it, and that there was a shed on the property. I said those things in the listing agreement so that they could understand all the different ways this property could be used and how large it was, et cetera, et cetera. So we get to the walkthrough, the final walkthrough, the week before the close of escrow, and the buyer says, "Where's the dog kennels?" And then he goes, "And where's the car lift? And where's the shed?" And I went, "Well, they've been packed up and moved." And he goes, "But they're included." And I go, "No, they're not included." And the agent says, they were mentioned in the MLS. Whatever you put in the MLS is marketing. Now, they were not attached is the reason I did that. If it's not attached, it does not go with the property, no matter what. And if it is attached, it does go. Now, had those things been attached and I put them in the MLS, which could have been translated into they are included, the agent, would have had to pay for them. Not the seller, me,
But why
because,
would you mention them anyway? Did you say you mentioned
well,
them?
I mentioned it because it told you about the property, that it could accommodate 17 kennels, a
Okay.
professional kennel.
Okay,
And the shop was big enough that it accommodated a car lift, and it had a huge shed. And so we had to get attorneys involved. I knew I was legally right, but the other one, she didn't know that. She didn't believe it, and so she was hell-bent on. Yes,
Do you think in the future, like, to avoid that, you would just reiterate that those are not included in?
yeah, I could have put they're not included, but quite honestly, good real estate agents or agents that are
I know.
learning,
but
what
you
they'll,
don't burn yourself by putting something in there that someone would expect.
pardon me?
17 kennels, you wanna be careful that not to burn yourself, that if you say the 17 kennels that are not attached to the home.
Quite honestly, it's not my problem. I don't
Okay.
represent the buyer. I represent the seller. That's for the buyer's agent. Buyer's agents have to do their job. Their job is to say, hey, Karen, these things, are they going with
Oh,
the
I
home or
see, I
not? I
see.
noticed they're mentioned in the listing. Are they being included? It'll be here. No, they're not included. Are they attached? I mean, you can catch people on the technicalities of this,
Mhm.
right?
But make
And
that
so
a
that's what
call.
she learned. They weren't attached, and it was easy to prove that they were not attached, because you can see if they're attached, right? If they're in concrete, there was concrete under all of them, there would have been bolt holes going into the concrete. So none of them were attached, including the car lift. Because at first on the car lift, you know, I double checked, because you can't lift it up and check, right? And I never looked for the bolts, and I said, Bob, tell me that car lift is not wasn't bolted down. He goes, no, it was never bolted down. I'm like, okay, sounds dangerous, but thank God, because if it was, you'd be bringing it back, or I'd be buying one. So, okay, so items included in, yes,
This is,
Esther.
I was once a seller,
Mhm.
and then our listing agent said, hey, you got an offer, but you have to leave all your furnitures, the bed, and all the furnitures. So, so they came back to us, okay, we'll wait for you, whatever your decision, because they wanna buy your house.
Fully
with all
furnished.
the furnitures,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
but they're not buying the furnitures, I mean, it's zero, I mean.
They
want the
wanted it for
furnitures.
no
free.
additional cost.
Exactly, so, is that legal?
Yes, it is, but you, on a purchase agreement, it's for real property. All personal possessions cannot be on a purchase agreement. Those have to be on, and there is a separate form for personal property in the ZIP forms for the California Association of Realtors. There's a separate, and if there's a loan, you cannot put those. They will not allow the transfer of personal property with a house on a purchase agreement, because they're not lending, and they could be fundamentally lending money for the purchase of personal property, and no lender in their guidelines will ever allow that. So you don't put it on here, you have a separate agreement.
Bill of sale.
Pardon me?
Bill of sale. Like bill of sale.
A bill of sale, yes, there is a bill of sale, exactly. Thank you for that.
So it's legal.
It is completely legal. I'm selling a house in Burbank in a couple months, and they wanna sell it lock, stock, and barrel. So I will inventory everything. We will have a price that people can pay. It just cannot be in with the loan. Not possible. Okay, so leased items, make sure to check if it's leased, and make sure you get all the paperwork. The seller is legally obligated to provide that paperwork to the buyers on all leased items. And if they have warranties, they're all also legally obligated to turn those over if they have them. Liened items, same difference. And some of that's supposed to have gone away, you know, where you could get a, what was it called? It was a special kind of lien they would put on your house if you got new windows, doors, or a solar system. They got rid of it about 2 years ago, so you shouldn't be running into them. Yes, that was it. Yeah, those were bad, really bad. I've only had one client who his solar system actually cost him $87,000 because of that system, what they did. It was just horrible. Smart homes and features. I just made a list of things that people forget about: their security, their smart door locks, their smart thermostats. I had a seller leave the house and take all that stuff, and I ended up paying for it to be put back. Now, they could have gone after the seller, but I liked my seller, and I had told him to leave them, but he didn't remember. So I now have a separate list that I give sellers that they sign. If you have these things, they have to be left in the house. And then whatever it is the seller's willing to take or willing to leave. But, wireless doorbell cameras, all of that. So, and then the property will be marketed in which MLS, and if there's others. And then if the seller, wants to consider a concession, if they want to put that in the MLS or not put that in the MLS. I don't know why anybody would, people would disclose that the seller was willing to consider a concession because maybe they would think they'd get more buyers. So I don't see a problem with that. But when they say that I don't even know if you can say this anymore, a certain amount. I don't think you can say a certain amount anymore, but you used to. But why would you give up the seller's position, give up leverage? Your job is to negotiate on behalf of your seller. And so buyers now, we call. Whenever I'm representing a buyer, which isn't very often, but when I do, I always call the listing agent and say, will your seller consider a concession for paying the buyer broker or for closing costs? And honestly, again, I haven't seen any issues with that. So I do always have that conversation with the seller to expect to be asked to cover the buyer broker fee. It's very typical. It's always going to be very typical because otherwise properties wouldn't be selling. Buyers have a hard enough time coming up with a down payment and closing costs. Sellers want to sell their property. It's as old as the time of real estate being bought and sold. Okay, and then the bottom is the seller instructing the broker not to take or use photographs in marketing except as required by the MLS. So at SDMLS, you have to have one photo, and that's a front elevation photo with no sign in it. You can never have your sign in it, but you have to have that photo. You don't have to have any other photos. And since we're talking about photos, just because you can put photos on doesn't mean you should put photos on. I learned a really good lesson at a house in Santa Monica from a great agent many years ago. It was a really cool house, but it had some challenges. It was an old house, so the rooms were really tiny. The closet where the wife kept her clothes was down in the basement, down a stairway like this. Very inconvenient for getting your clothes. It was just very tiny. But it was a really cool house on a really great street, an amazing location of Santa Monica. And I co-listed it because I had never sold in Santa Monica. So when I work in an area I've never sold before, I co-list with another agent. And how it works is you're the boots on the ground, and I will do all contracts and all negotiating because that's my expertise. And really, the point of the other agent, people say I'm a neighborhood expert. What does that mean? Well, pretty much everything except gossip we can now find on the internet. I mean,
and gossip you can find.
Gossip but we are still only supposed to work in areas of which we have knowledge. That still is reading that way. So I always hire somebody as a co-listing agent, boots on the ground. But I hired a really good agent, and I was like, gosh, Allison, I don't know, I'm worried putting all these photos out. And she goes, we're not putting them all out. And I said, okay, tell me more. And she goes, look, here's the thing, Karen. We want people to look at the photos, and the photos they see make them want to come to the property. Now, if we show them that closet's in the basement down very steep stairs, how many out of 10 potential buyers are going to go, nope? She goes, but if they came, they might love the property so much that they'll overlook it. And she said, so we're only gonna put the photos that are the teasers. And the ones that aren't gonna sell the house, we're not gonna put, because hopefully they'll love the house so much that they'll overlook the other things. But we can't know what they'll overlook. What we can know is what's not really great. We know what's not really desirable. That closet in the basement's not really desirable. And there's a couple other things. And it was phenomenal. It was amazing. And it's exactly what happened. People came, we had people fighting for the house, and they didn't care about that stupid closet in the basement. But I bet if it was in the photos, it would have been an issue. So, and here's the other thing, you're gonna get buyers and their agents who will call you and say, my buyer would like you to take all the photos off of the internet. Okay, you can't do that. And it's like, look, you can only remove your listing photos prior to you marking that listing as sold. Once you show it as sold in the MLS, you cannot remove those photos, not unless there's a court order. So if the buyer doesn't want the photos there, and we now do this in the contract, I ask up front because my TC is tired of getting yelled at. So we ask up front, does the buyer want the listing photos removed from the MLS? If yes, great, now my TC knows to remove them prior to showing the property as sold. But I had somebody call me a couple months ago screaming at me, and she said, those photos haven't been removed. And I said, yes, they were. She said, no, they weren't. I said, they were. And she's like, no, they're all over the internet. And I went, oh my God, who do you think I am? I'm not Jeff Bezos, and I don't even think he could affect that. No, once they're out there, they're out there. And the minute it goes to an MLS, it is syndicated to Zillow, Trulia, Homes.com, Realtor.com. It's in China in 15 seconds. I have got no power to remove them from the internet. And I will cover photos. When you're a listing agent and you're taking photos, think about what the photos are showing. Don't show valuable works of art. Don't show, like, if they're staged. I saw one recently, and the stager managed the photographer. Well, she really had her staging photographed. And it was good staging, it was beautiful, mind you, but it didn't sell the house. Nobody was looking for a tablescape. And I heard comments about, well, this is so obnoxious. I wanna see the house and all I'm seeing is the furniture. So check what your photographer's doing. Qualify your photographer, that they understand lighting, that they understand an angle. Don't put the toilet in, and if you're gonna put the toilet in, if you can't help it, make sure the seat's down, straighten up. So every house that's photographed, I show up for the photography. And I'm the grunt for the photographer. And she's like, hey, I need you to move that. But I don't care what she asks me to do. Those photos are super critical, because that is what everybody's gonna see and decide to come or not to come. And I use them also in a portfolio for getting future listings. And by the way, on my G drive, I have a file of what bad photos look like. You can't even make it up. Oh, I'm just like, yikes, cockroach infestations. Like, really? Who took that picture? And who put it up?
And cluttered closets.
Yes,
Oh.
you don't need a picture of a cluttered closet. It's not selling the house. And by the way, it is saying something about the owner. And then people's minds run away with them. And you don't want that either. You can't, it's worse than a runaway dog. Okay, so on the next page, we talk about timing of presentation of offers. I do not hold offers. I think it's dangerous. I think it's a slippery slope, and I think you can get in trouble for holding offers. People were doing it because they were using it as a way of leverage to go, hey, go ahead and write an offer, but it's Saturday, we're not gonna review them until Monday. What have you just told me as a potential buyer? That you're playing the game. And a lot of sellers will just go, yeah, buyers, we're not interested. We're not gonna get into that. If our offer is not going to be presented immediately. So I don't hold offers because I never want anyone to accuse me of doing something I shouldn't do. So I submit them as they come in. That's our education manager, his system.
Do you call your sellers right away?
I
or
do.
you- okay.
I do, because you know what? They're at home going, do we have an offer? Do we have an offer?
Yeah.
They wanna know. So I wanna relieve their anxiety and go, hey, got an offer. It's a really bad one, or it's a really great one. I wanna just take it right off their plate quick. And then I send the offer over, and it's all documented. And that's just so nobody can say that I've done something I shouldn't have done. I don't play that game. I'm not interested. I have a fiduciary duty, and I ride that duty like the letter of the law and a horse. So I prefer but everybody gets to do what they wanna do. It's just, everything has to be in writing. If you're gonna hold offers until Monday, it's gotta say so. You need to disclose that you're holding offers. Because otherwise they could say you cheated somebody, and then the next thing you know, it becomes a discrimination charge. And I have seen that. I've seen it's like, oh, they didn't present our offer because because they discriminated against us. That's a bad place to go. It's just bad. So I'm just like, no, all offers get submitted as they come in. That's the way the chips fall, and the best offer will be accepted, and it will be best because it's usually the highest. I don't see anybody give money away, or the best terms that work for the seller, whatever works for the seller.
What do you do if the buying agent, your listing agent also present the offer? How do you do that?
Okay, so that is interesting because back in the days, we as buyer's agents always presented our offers to the seller. Nowadays, nobody wants you to talk to their seller. And this just came up a couple weeks ago, which I was like, oh my God, I forgot about those days. We always presented. And I was thinking, I think most listing agents today would say, no, we're not doing that, because they don't want to be bothered, because that means they have to physically show up too. They'd rather just send it over via email and get a response via email, or they have, if it's a big team, they'll have a bunch of people, so they'll say no. You can still ask. I quite honestly haven't felt the need to do that in years and years and years, but I also suspect I would be told no by most. Now, if somebody asked me, I would ask my seller, because at the end of the day, it's not my decision. It's really no agent's decision. And that's a risk they're taking amongst themselves to do that and say no. I would never say no if you said I'd like to present my offer. I would say the agent would like to present the offer. But again, there's a lot of agents that don't understand that they work for the seller and it's the seller's decision. They're the principal. And unless they're asking you to do something that's illegal, it's, if it's prejudicial. My own sister, it's embarrassing, my own sister asked for me to practice what would be a form of discrimination in offers. They live up in Northern California. And I was just like, I'm not listing your house. I can't believe you just asked me that, you're an idiot. And she was like, and I'm like, don't even go there with me. I said, so first of all, if you wanna do that, you can do that, but you cannot do that with a realtor. Because that's against the law. It's a violation of fair housing. So, if I hear anything like that from a potential seller, that's a conversation we have right in the beginning. It's like, we have fair housing laws that we observe. If you want to violate them, I cannot be and do not want to be affiliated with you. No intent to insult intended here. The fact of the matter is, this is the law. So, yeah.
Could you email them, like, if, let's say you're representing a buyer, this is the only time I would, oh, my buyer would like you to ask your sellers if I could present their offer, correct? Just something like, and they could say no.
Yeah, they can say no.
Yeah.
I would,
But you've asked them to ask their sellers.
and again, I do it in writing,
Right.
because I don't want anyone to
Yeah.
come back and go, I asked and I never got a response.
Right.
Because that, I have to pass that on to the owner of the property, who is the principal, who
Right.
is my boss per se.
Right.
So, yeah, I always ask them, and I ask them in writing, so they respond in writing. I create a really good correspondence file, just in case. People will make up stuff when they get in trouble. So I like to be the one to go, sorry, I keep a lot of paper. Not paper anymore, it's all digital. You had a question in the back.
Yeah, I just didn't hear what your sister asked you to do.
Oh, she wanted me to practice discrimination in who could be her buyers. She wanted to have a certain kind of person buy her house. And it was like, yeah, I'm sorry. She was specific, she wanted a family. And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't work that way, you don't get to do that. And she just couldn't get it. She's like, I'm not discriminating. I'm like, you are discriminating. You're saying a family, so a single person can't buy it? That's ridiculous. And I can't do that, and I won't do that. And yeah, so Okay, buyer supplemental offer letters. Unfortunately, that goes towards fair housing. They were used in a lot of ways to discriminate. I don't allow them for that reason. I put that into the MLS under confidential remarks, that no buyer love letters will be provided, but the seller has to agree with that. And if you will accept them, the seller has to agree with it. Investigation reports. I always talk to my seller about having everything inspected on the house. So if the house is older than 5 or 10 years and there's a tree in the front yard between the house and the street, I want a sewer scope, because that's a very expensive problem if the roots have gotten into the sewer line, or if it's bulging or whatever. And if it's an older house, then I don't even care if there's a tree, I need to see those lines. I want a termite inspection, I want a whole house inspection, I want a roof inspection, all the things that could be potential problems in the negotiating. I want to know those up front. Now you can talk to your brokers, but I put them on the MLS because I don't want to waste my time, but I really don't want to waste the time of my seller. I don't want to get their hopes up. If there's major problems with the house that I know a buyer's going to ask for a huge write-down for, and the seller's not, they're thinking, oh, I listed for $1 million, I'm going to get $1 million. I'm like, no, you're going to get 800. There's 200,000 that you are not wanting to see that needs to be done. So I get the inspections to set their expectations, so that when a buyer comes and they have an inspection, and I make buyers get inspections, if the buyer's agent goes, oh, they're just gonna use yours, I'm like, no, I really need them to have their own. And if they say, well, they can't afford it, so they wanna use your own, I always tell the buyer's agent, okay, you and I, we're gonna make a deal. You and I will pay for your buyer's inspection to protect us. I don't want anyone to ever say they didn't have the ability. So you and I, we can afford this, and we're gonna do this because this is the right thing to do, to protect all parties involved. And a lawsuit or a grievance will cost a lot more. So I don't care, I'll come out of pocket $350. Yes?
So you do recommend doing older houses, or if you see issues, doing the whole property inspection?
I do it on every house. I don't care how old the house is. It could be brand new, I would do it. Because brand new houses, if the contractor's made a mistake, you're gonna have an issue. But when you put it in the MLS, and then what I do is, in the MLS under confidential, I require all of those inspections to be initialed by the buyer and submitted with the offer. And the offers will not be considered if they don't provide those inspections initialed that the buyer has reviewed them. Because now what I've done is, if we're gonna get into escrow, I've already started the time clock on the contingency period, because they've got them. But they also are coming in with clear expectations that, they can't make an offer for $1 million and expect to ask for a credit for 100,000, because they know the condition of the house. They're writing an offer based on the condition. So it's made negotiating cleaner, easier, more predictable. You have a question? Yes.
Yeah, no, I just found I find that it protects the seller too, if they do a seller home inspection prior to.
It does.
On the MLS, and then making the buyer sign off an initial on an inspection report.
Correct.
So, and you also know as an agent exactly what you're selling.
That's exactly right. And it just looks right. It's like, why would,
No surprises.
no surprises for anybody.
You're being
Yes,
transparent.
exactly.
I
And-
just wanted to make sure that I understood on the MLS, I'm so paranoid of that MLS. Well, I made a mistake one time and I thought I'd die. They'd come and get me in the middle of the night.
No, Kelly doesn't go anywhere after 5.
Yeah, well, tell me that 3 years ago.
Oh.
When you put in the MLS that you actually ordered these inspections.
Yeah, you do
put
it
the
under
results,
documents, you can add them.
But do you put the results? No.
No, I put the inspection, yeah.
The reports,
Just so you
I
say
put the whole, I
reports.
upload the whole inspection. And I do the seller's
On the MLS?
disclosures, yes. Because then, as you're a buyer's agent, when I see that D and I see those things in there, I can look at all those docs with my buyer and go, okay, here's the condition of the house, what price do you wanna offer? Because here's a rough idea of how much it might cost to fix. I just find I get a much more favorable response from buyers and buyers agents knowing up front. And I put all the seller's disclosures.
Okay, I'm gonna have to mess around in the MLS, 'cause I don't have.
Take our MLS classes, we have 1 or 2 a day in our building right
In the
here.
front,
Yeah, in our building right here.
Very good.
Yeah, so it's under D, it's documents, you can upload everything. Yeah, it is good.
How much does it cost for the whole? all
So
that?
a typical inspection, right now, the high price I'm seeing is 800 for about 3,000 square foot homes, so about 800. Termites 99, but if they're gonna do the work, there's always something, a little bit maybe. There's always wood rot, right? That happens. So they don't charge, but the sewer scope is usually 175. And then they also do the drone because they check the roof because they don't climb on the roof. It's usually, it's like probably $1,200.
1,200?
Yeah, but I mean, I get repaid by the seller.
Yeah.
If the seller can't pay, I will pay, because I know it's the right thing to do, but I have that they will reimburse me, and they always do.
They will reimburse you after closing?
No, during closing, at the close of escrow.
Okay.
Never after, never trust anybody. Sounds terrible. You know, you get your money when they get their money.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, like I just had a client, I don't suggest doing this, but if I hadn't come out of pocket and I had to lend him $5,000 and pay for the HOA docs, which were $1,500.
But you have to put that in writing.
Oh,
and they'll
yeah.
invoice you.
There's no way I'm giving somebody $6,500 without an agreement in writing to reimburse me. And I had to check with the escrow that they were okay with it, because they had to pay me directly, not my broker,
Okay.
because that was my
Because
money.
it's coming from your pocket.
Yeah, it came from my pocket, and I only did it because I really needed to get that sale done. It was,
Do the
I love that.
fireplace?
what's that?
The fireplace inspection, that they don't really.
Okay, so when there's an inspection by the general inspector, I don't order them special unless if they see a crack. So if there's a crack in a chimney, that's huge money to fix. So generally, depending on the price of a house, let's say it's a $500,000 or $600,000 house, I'm not going there because people don't have that kind of money. So what I will do is, on the MLS, in public comments, I'll put that the chimney is for cosmetic purposes only. So we just disclosed it's non-functional. So they're not gonna come back and ask for it to be functional. Now, if they wanna make it functional, be my guest, but none of my seller's dime. So many things you learn through the years. Yes?
What about the seller's skills? Like, why do I have to do the inspection? The buyer would do it anyway.
Oh, I had one of those sellers recently. He did not wanna do it. And he was a stinker. Nice guy, but a stinker. And he's like, no, I'm not doing it. And I said, you're gonna regret doing this. I'm telling you right now. And I would usually pay, but he was such a stinker that I just thought, no, I'm not gonna do it. He can just deal with it when he gets it. And so he got a huge request for a credit. And his back was up against a wall. He didn't have a choice, and he had no other offers because the house was priced too high. And I knew it was gonna be a nasty inspection results. I knew it. I've built 300 homes, so I'm a builder also, developer. So, and I've literally built homes physically, so I know construction well. And so he wouldn't do it, and I said, that's why I wanted you to have inspections, so we would be prepared, so we could fix certain things, so we could mitigate this, we could negotiate it, we could be in front of it. Instead, you feel like you got cold water thrown on you, but it should have been hot water because he was a contractor also. And I go, I know you knew this stuff. You were just hoping somebody was stupid. So, yeah. Yep.
You've gone ahead and put the inspections in the MLS.
Yep.
And there's the findings.
Yep.
Do you fix the findings, like there's termites, like there's roofs? Is that
We
your- is that your
discuss it.
obligation
We
as
just
the sellers?
No, they are not obligated. Everything's negotiable. So no, I don't. I mean, if they so I have a client who's very, very wealthy. He fixes everything,
Okay.
but he also gets top dollar because he can afford it. It just depends on, can the seller afford it? Because it could be 56. If you've got a roof, if you've got windows, if you've got a sewer line, if you've got plumbing and electrical, and the house is 60 plus years old, and God forbid it's a perimeter foundation, which at 60 years of old age, they're gonna have some issues, you're looking at $150,000+. And not everybody has 150 in cash that they wanna come out with. But here's the other thing, they may be in a neighborhood that the houses haven't been fixed up, so they're not gonna be able to sell for enough, cause it's never going to appraise. Cause you'd have to make sure you're there with the appraiser and showing them the receipts, new plumbing, new electrical,
Yeah, yeah.
new roof, new this. Otherwise, that stuff's never gonna make it on the appraisal, and so you're never gonna get a loan on it.
I'm scared to list this house, it's a friend's house. I'm nervous about this now. Thanks very much after this class. I know through information of the person who lives in the house and neighbors and ish, that the inspector came out in the city, this was like 40 years, 50 years ago. And you put this rebar in the cement and the city went, yep, looks good. They removed the rebar and moved it to the next house. Now I know, because the floor's cracking, that that's true. My job is to disclose that.
Well, wait, okay, so you saw the concrete after it was dry,
No, I saw the house 40 years, 50 years later. And
Okay.
the floors are cracking.
but
And
that
the guy
doesn't
said
mean,
it's
that
because-
doesn't mean that. That actually doesn't mean that. My first company was a foundation company.
Okay.
So I poured foundations. I'm really familiar with concrete and rebar.
How old are you?
I started a construction company and buying real estate when I was 17. So I'm a little bit weird.
17?
17. So I'm strange. And you can do the math, I'm 65, going on 66. But what I can tell you, if you have cracked foundations, so Rancho Santa Fe has expansive soils, that will pop a foundation. If those contractors did not put that rebar in properly, use the right size of rebar, if
And
the
removed it, and or removed it.
honestly, I gotta tell you, I've never seen anybody do that. It's not worth the money, but I have actually never seen that. But I have seen a lot of cracked slabs and cracked foundations. If the contractors, if they didn't know better and they didn't bring in the right rebar, if they paid off an inspector, if the mud, the concrete, when it was delivered, was not mixed properly based on the weather that day, if expansive soils, all of those things can cause cracking. So there's so many different things that can cause a foundation to fail, but they can all be fixed, by
Is
the
that
way.
my job to tell you why?
No, don't ever do that.
Yeah.
Don't ever be the source. Be the
This
source
seems
of,
to gossip.
be the source of the source.
You don't know for sure, you might.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if the foundation's cracked, it's kind of.
Well, if the foundation's cracked, let the inspector find it. Be the
Okay.
source of the source.
That's what I'm saying.
So like if you see a stain in the ceiling, don't ever say it's a leak, because you don't know.
Right.
And if you make a mistake, you're liable.
Yeah, no.
So what you say, you can be held for it. So I always say, be the source of the source. You see a crack, call a foundation inspection. Get somebody else to take all the liability.
Okay.
I don't wanna write those checks. So I don't know anything. I'll say there's a brown stain on the ceiling in the dining room.
Discoloring.
There's discoloring, yeah.
Don't say small crack or big crack, just say it's a crack.
Just say a crack, because you don't know what's small or big, right?
Right.
It's a technicality. By the way, in foundations and on stucco, those are rigid materials. The earth is not rigid. The earth moves. So there will be cracks at some point in most places. It's a matter of the size and it's a matter of the location. And even with my knowledge, I keep my mouth shut because I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to be sued. I'll let an expert who has liability insurance go down that road who gets paid. Not worth it. Okay, so there's all those different inspections. Natural hazard disclosure, they have to submit that, they have to provide that. So I just get that ordered right away. Preliminary title report, call your title company, open escrow and open title when you take your listing. And then put it in your confidential remarks so that whoever writes the offer knows who the title and escrow is. So, have a really good escrow company and a really good title company, get that title report so you can put that out there because it's a seller's disclosure that's obligated to be given. And then, everything inspected, including solar. Okay, so exceptions to ownership and title. I don't run across those. If there's a seller's gonna have a contingency for the replacement of a property, that can hamper a sale, by the way, obviously. let's say seller opt-outs, if they don't want a lockbox or signs, I run across that. The lockbox I run across all the time. They don't want a lockbox, they don't want, but I always explain, look, I can put a secondary code on it so nobody can get in. They have to get a code from me to use the lockbox. That's how our lockboxes work. So I love our lockboxes. I'm a big Centric Key person because I can control who gets in the lockbox. I can give access. I know when people go in, I know when they go out. I can give anybody access I need or want to, but I can restrict everybody from using that lockbox electronically from my phone. And then that's where additional terms, if seller chooses not to extend, listing beyond expiration, seller agrees to reimburse, listing agent for all expenses for marketing purposes, and receipts will be provided. You get then you just have all the basic standard boilerplate forms attached. That really is the crud. That's the basics of your listing agreement and all the things that go into it, right? All the different things to consider. Does anybody have any questions?
For unpermitted room, how do you deal with
Okay, so here's the thing. I've seen, okay, again, I like to just not go there because the client I just sold a house for, who was a bit of a butt, told me that his sunrooms were permitted. Okay, having been in construction, I know they weren't permitted because they're not air-conditioned space and they're not insulated. And he's like, no, my mother did it. And I went, no, she didn't do it. Maybe the company that built them got a permit to put them in, but they're not permitted living space. But his previous listing agent listed them as permitted living space because he told her. And I thought, why would you trust a client unless they can show you the permit? So if somebody tells me it's permitted, I'm like, show me the permit. Now, if they want to insist, I tell them, go get it. You can take your time and go down to the county and get your permit. But I'm not gonna indicate it's permitted space if it's not. I'll say that there's space that is not showing up on the preliminary title report, and that may be permitted or unpermitted. It is unknown. And by the way, in the purchase agreement, it's the buyer's obligation to source that, not the buyer's agent, the buyer. They wanna know if it's permitted or unpermitted, that's their responsibility. So, and you can see, so the preliminary title reports are not often wrong. If it says 3,000 square feet on the prelim and you see a listing with 3,500, it's doubtful that's a mistake. More than likely they did an add-on and they didn't permit it. And they don't permit it because when you permit, you pay higher property taxes. Because let's say it's a $100,000 improvement, well, you just added $100,000 to the property value, which is what your taxes are based on. So that's why most people don't permit, because they don't want to pay for the permit, but they don't want to pay for the more property taxes that go up a little bit. It's not a lot. Now, appraisers generally will still consider unpermitted space if it is built to quality standards, construction standards. If it's air conditioned and insulated and everything, oftentimes appraisers will consider it. They won't not consider it.
I had a buyer and they considered it, the
Yes.
appraiser did.
Well, it's there, and you can get things permitted after the fact. It's a little bit, it's some work, but it's not impossible at all, not at all.
Do you think they'll get checked afterwards, the buyer, like, hey, your room is not unpermitted, we'll charge you, kinda like that? Is the city gonna come and take a look at it?
So the city, so what's really interesting is cities do not investigate without a complaint from a neighbor.
Oh.
It takes a complaint from a neighbor
Okay.
for a city to come out and investigate. They don't have the time nor the desire, quite honestly.
They demolish it.
Who?
Like the city, if they found out.
No, they can't demolish. Unless it was not
they ask
built
them to demolish.
to standards.
Just,
If it is not built to UBC, Universal Building Code standards, if it's in violation, if somebody basically just threw up cardboard walls, well, then they would say. But if it was built well, then the city usually will help you. They'll come out and inspect it and they'll help you. They'll say, this is what you're gonna need to do. You have to have plans, and they can ask you to open a wall so they can see the electrical, but I personally bought a house that had unpermitted rooms, and I permitted them. And the city came out, they inspected it, and they went, It looks fine, and they permitted it.
How long it will take for you to get the permit?
Well, it depends on the city, it depends on their process. Like, I'm doing a ADU in a backyard and a pool right now. I got my pool permits in 3 weeks. My ADU is taking me 11 weeks. I mean, it's a 371 square foot ADU. You'd think I was building a 3,000 square foot house. So it just depends. There's no way to know. Everybody's different.
Thank you.
And then you,
I sold my friend's house, and commission was all done a few years ago. Then she said to me, before she left the state, she said, I would like to pay you an extra $1,000 because you're gonna supervise the carpet cleaning and the painting and that kind of stuff. And I said, sure, then put that $1,000. Where do I need to put that? 'Cause
well,
I
that's
grew up
not
here and
part
had a
of the
heart attack.
sale of the property. She's hiring you outside of being a realtor to do
Oh,
that.
he told me I had to put in the commission.
Who?
My broker. He's an idiot.
Well, he got a percentage of
He's an
it.
idiot.
I'm sorry, but it
Past-
has,
Past tense. So I just, no, so you don't take that as cash under the table.
if it's not part of the contract, then it's not part of the contract. Whatever you
I see
do
what you're
within
saying.
the scope of being a realtor is your broker's business.
I just wanna make sure that I'm not.
But if
doing
your
something
house,
shady.
if you're cleaning your house for your client, that's not part of being a realtor. We don't do house cleaning and stuff like that.
Okay,
Yeah, so, but,
That makes
and that was just cleaning. Now, if you were managing, then you've got a realtor contract.
okay.
You have a question?
Do you have any feedback or experience with, like condos or properties that are 55 and older?
Uh-huh.
Wait, how, like, I mean, I have a potential client that is in that situation. I haven't gone to go see it or anything. We have an appointment next week. But it's just, I've never worked with somebody that has 55 and older, space.
Oh,
Who
so the
verifies?
reason there's a 55 and older communities and they sell for less money. And they sell for less money because the only people who can buy them are 55 and older. And usually they have stipulations in their CC&Rs that if you're 45 and older, one of the owners has to be 55 and older.
Okay.
And then somebody that's 45 and older can live with them, but like kids can't live with them. They can't move kids in. Yeah, they're restrictive. They're restrictive communities, and they get favorable property tax treatment, and that's part of it too. So I had a 55 and older listing in Oaks North, and it was adorable. I had so many young people coming through, and it
That's what
said
I'm concerned
it
about. Like,
said
how do I know
you-
if they're old?
well, you put it on the MLS
Right.
that it's 55 and older community,
Yeah.
and they were walking in. I'm like, gosh, you guys are doing something. I don't know what you're doing, but you guys all look so young. You're all like in your 30s, and they're like, well, I am. And I'm like, then why are you here? Are you buying this for your parents and they're moving in? They're like, no. And I went, well, did you read the MLS? No. Well, how'd you get here? Well, our agent said. And I said, I was like, you actually have an agent who sent you to a 55. You need to talk to the agent because they didn't check the MLS. Because when they put a search up for you, they didn't put to not include 55. So they're sending you listings in 55 plus communities. Yeah.
So the HOA company is really who's gonna have those rules and verification?
It'll be in the CC&Rs.
CC&R?
Yeah, it's not in the HOA. It'll be in the CC. Which community?
Don't know the name of it. I haven't done enough research.
Do you know where it's at?
It's in Vista.
Oh, Shadowbrook. It'll be Shadowbrook. It's a good chance.
Fuente, I think like Fuente Street or something.
Yeah, so Shadowbrook has a golf course and it has a 55 plus in there.
Okay.
Yeah, Carl's, Rancho Bernardo has a couple of them, Oceanside, Poway, yeah, yeah.
So it's really the same with the exception of the
Yeah,
client or
it's just the buyer
buyer.
has to be 55 or plus.
Okay, that's
And they
great.
can't move kids in.
How do they
Sometimes they have how
say
long
that's
it's
restricted, that's.
That's discrimination, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not, they're not a protected class.
How does it get away with not being restrictive?
It is restricted.
No,
It's
but
designed
how do
to
they
be
get away with that?
restrictive.
The whole place is that.
Because it was designed and they got favorable tax treatment
Oh, I
for
see.
property taxes to be designed to help 55 and older. So the homes are smaller.
Oh my
Okay.
goodness.
Yeah, so the homes are smaller, the lots are smaller, their 2-bedroom, 2-bath is a common size.
Okay.
Lower taxes, property taxes.
Yeah, lower property taxes, yes.
maybe because I read too much into things, but, so let's say if the buyer doesn't have like the money to pay for the inspections,
Uh-huh.
right? And then you do offer to go half and half,
Mhm.
like with the other agent, do you think that could be considered like a violation of agency? with
Not a
your
chance,
buyer?
not a
No?
chance.
Okay.
You'll be looked at favorably all day long because you're trying to protect the buyer, to make sure they have their own independent. We don't choose the inspector, that would be a problem,
Yeah.
but we will pay because I want that buyer to have their own independent inspector to protect them. So they can't say, well, I trusted the seller's inspector and I was taken advantage of.
Okay.
Yeah, so the agent's paying for it, that would be nice. Most agents won't do it, by the way.
Can they use the same inspector as well, the buyer?
No, absolutely not. And
But if they choose to?
well, I had that come up a year ago, 2 years ago, where when they called and said, oh, you know, this is and I said, oh, who's the inspector? Because I know a lot of inspectors. And they said, I go, you can't use them. That's who did the seller's inspection. You gotta get somebody else. You can use the same company, but get somebody else. I don't want the
Is it
same
illegal to
inspector.
use the same inspector?
It's not illegal, but I don't think it's a good idea. I want objectivity at all times. Because who knows, maybe my inspector got something in his eye and he missed something. And I've had an inspector miss something now and then that another inspector caught. So the more sets of eyes, the better. I prefer to have 2 sets of eyes, if
So it's
possible.
not about illegality, it's about something that they might miss.
Yeah, it's just also making sure that they know that they were protected. Because that's our job, is to protect our clients and to advise and assist them. Yes.
Do you refer companies to buyers such as, inspectors?
Yes.
and,
They look to us to do that. Now, if anybody ever offers you a kickback, do not do it. It is illegal, and if you get caught, you will be in some very, very serious trouble. And I know a lot of agents that have been caught
I'm sorry,
taking
what does
kickbacks.
that mean, kickback?
So there are companies that will say, if you use us, we'll give you $100, or we'll give you, or we'll pay for your marketing. That's called
To the agent or to the boss?
to the agent.
Oh, okay.
And that's called a RESPA violation. And that is legal, it's a big, big issue. And the Department of Real Estate, yeah, it's not pretty at all. So a lot of agents have been caught, especially, it was really prevalent 15, 20 years ago. I mean, it was really, really bad. So, yeah, never take a kickback of any kind. Yes, Robert?
Public marketing E2, is this where you would note in any other marketing outside of the MLS? I see writers that'll say 4%, or I'll see their flyers. It's not in the MLS, but sometimes they wanna give a concession and that kind of attracts folks. Normally it's tied down to, it must be our asking price, we must give it in order to get that, but is that where you would identify that? You would check mark that, and the seller, you would write somewhere that.
In any
this-
other marketing outside of the MLS
Is it a
is where
con-
you would put that. And you
Because
can
I've
do that,
seen
you can put it
writers
on a
that'll say-
flower, you can put it on a sign,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
But it's the seller's decision where to put that. And that tells you that they're probably overpricing the house and they're desperate for an offer, so they're
It's a
like,
telltale, yeah.
well, what they're doing, think about this is crazy. They're basically baiting the buyer's agent to work against the buyer.
Right.
It's like, oh, Mr. Buyer's agent, we're gonna pay you 4 bananas if you get your buyer to come pay more than the house is worth. That's why it's just crazy.
Here's the other part is, you've already signed a BRBC, good for 3 months, you're 2 months into it. You know you're gonna see this property, you've seen that advertising. You would draft up a new BRBC that says.
You can't, and you can't.
You
can't do
just
that. It's
start
illegal.
A brand new one?
You cannot, it's illegal. You have a buyer broker, you're bound to that.
So-
You cannot accept anything over what's agreed to in that buyer broker.
So even if you draft a new one, you're like, I know I'm gonna see this property, this one's 2 months, I'm gonna draft a brand new one for this.
It's illegal. If you get caught, you'll be
Because
facing.
agents would, I'd rather use that as, hey, I'll share that with you, I'll give you 1% back.
Can't do that, it's illegal. So that contract with the buyer is binding for that period of time. So let's say it says 3 bananas in your buyer
Yeah.
representation
Right.
agreement, and this seller's offering 4 bananas. Yes, everybody's like, well, why can't I have that, or why can't I give it to the buyer? Because you have a contract And that contract says you are going to be paid by the buyer or somebody on the buyer's behalf 3 bananas. You cannot then go outside of that contract. And it's
So
because
make them
it's,
short expiration, just do 1 week, 2 week, or week.
you could
or
do
two.
that. You could do
Pain.
that and then change it each time, whatever they're willing to sign.
Okay.
But if they sign 4 bananas and you don't find 4 bananas, now you have to figure out who's gonna pay the 4 bananas. So here's where we get into the weeds, and that's what it makes it easier, but it makes it harder. These are legally binding and actionable in a court of law with a judge. And judges do not color outside the lines if they're smart, and the ones that aren't smart end up getting kicked off the bench. So if it says 3 bananas, it has to be 3 bananas. You can go less, you can give some of it back to the buyer if you want. You can agree to take less and reduce it, but you can't get paid more. And they are watching and looking because this is the thing that it's been so hard, is nobody ever explained to us realtors that even though we're not attorneys, this is legal.
Yeah.
This is law. This is the civil code. And people go, oh, you're in sales. No, actually, I'm not. I'm not in sales. I don't own the house. I can't sell what I don't own. I'm advising the seller of the house. I'm the consultant, the advisor, and the guide, and the advocate for the seller of the house. So if I cost them money and I've done something that's illegal, I'm in trouble. Yeah, it's a really great industry, and the good news is it's all in writing, right? So you just gotta follow what it says in writing to the law, to the letter of the law.
So you cannot collect more than, you can collect
Never.
less than.
Yes, yeah, you can collect less than, but not more than. But you just have to think, if you put more than, who's gonna pay it? And most buyers probably won't hire you if you put more than, because ultimately they're responsible. Now, they don't have to buy a house, so they don't have to ever pay you. But if it says in writing that they have to pay you, they're gonna think they have to pay you. So how many are gonna wanna sign a buyer representation for 4 bananas? I don't know of anybody. But that's the problem with somebody putting a crazy thing in the yard like that. And I bet you they know what they're doing. Yeah, yes?
On this specific condo that I'm mentioning, the HOA is going up dramatically.
So it's an assessment. Is it an assessment or an increase? Is it a
Good
one-time
question.
assessment or?
Good, but no, it's an ongoing thing. That's why she wants to get out of there.
Yeah.
is because it's like
And that'll have to be
another
disclosed.
$300 or $400.
Yeah, that'll be on the seller
It goes how much?
disclosures.
It's like another $300.
No, it's only about 20%.
No, they're not limited on how much they can increase, not HOAs, but there is a law that just came out, nobody knows about it. It came out in conjunction with the balcony and stair law, where if you're selling multifamily, they have to be inspected, which is really problematic. But what was buried in there is that HOAs cannot fine more than $100 at a time, and they cannot charge interest on their fines. So that's new. Nobody knows that one, because it was,
But the 20% increase per year is not.
I've never heard of that on HOAs.
I've been on board.
I don't do anything with
Yeah.
HOAs, but yeah. But the fact is, all of that's in the seller's disclosures. Any other questions?
Can I ask you something after class?
Yeah, of course. And then, so I'm gonna be teaching a lot more. I used to teach a lot, but I've been treasurer, and I've been busy with being treasurer and chairing some committees. So if you guys ever need me or want me, you can find me through Darren. He knows how to get a hold of me 24/7.
She's hard to get a hold of, so yeah.
I'm not. I always pick up for you.
She is wonderful. Let's give her a round of applause. Please. And if you wouldn't mind all taking out your cell phones, and we love feedback here at SDAR. We've got a QR code up here. If you go ahead and take a picture of that and hit the link below the QR code on your phone, it'll take you to our survey. It's just 10 questions. Takes maybe a minute or two to complete, but if you could do that, that'd be great.
And we do this because we are here to serve you guys. Our job is to give you what you need and what you want to be successful and to answer your questions and help you do better. So this survey is going to ask you about the class, the contents of the class, me, because I'm really picky about educators. He knows that, and he's a professional educator, college level. It's very important. So I'm certified. We don't allow people to teach that are not certified, not attorneys, and not brokers. We want the best of the best educating you guys to help you and protect you and serve your clients. And that's why the survey is so critical. We have our education committee, when is it?
Friday.
That's what I thought. So, and at our education committee, we look at these surveys from each class and each instructor. That could be
And do you
bad.
answer the question by email?
Was that?
Do you answer the question by email?
Yes, I do. I do. Yes, if you email me, actually text me. I am better on text. I get over 300 emails a day.
Can I have your number?
Yeah, so my phone number is 858 6.
Yeah, are you sure?
I am.
Thank
So,
you.
Okay, 858-699-6409. And my name is Karen. And if you just give me your name, tell me you were in my class, because I don't get as many texts. I definitely manage my texts. My emails I can't manage, so it just stops.
Your number again.
Sure, 85, there you go. And I'm happy to.
I love you, Karen.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, you're so sweet. Oh. Well, I'll be teaching a lot more after January 1st. Yeah,
I love your classes.
I'll be back on the schedule every
I'll be
week.
in your class.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you guys.
Karen, I have two questions.